I would like to thank everybody here for allowing me to come and speak today. My name is Kaylee Winters-Norrie. I have been a type 1 diabetic since I was 6 years old. I was diagnosed in June of 2001, and I have been reliant on insulin therapy since my diagnosis. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, so I relied on government assistance programs and samples from my pediatric endocrinologist in order to maintain my diabetes care. At the time, it was called the Crippled Children's Fund. And when I went to college, I was forced to enroll in Medicaid. My father didn't want to put me on his health insurance, which was a very difficult system to navigate as a first-generation college student, the first person in my family to graduate high school as well. By my junior year at Michigan State University, not only did the system become almost unmanageable for me to navigate, but I was also working 2 jobs. I was going to school full-time, and I was still having difficulty making ends meet because my medical costs were so high. Not only was the cost of insulin absolutely abhorrent, but also other medical costs that come with that, nutritious meals and other medical supplies. This led me to some pretty dark paths, including having to steal food from the grocery store just to be able to eat. This is when I went into diabetic ketoacidosis for the first time. In November of 2016, I realized that I was not going to be able to afford my insulin that month, and so I began to ration it. I soon ran out of insulin and did not get another vial in time and ended up in the hospital. Diabetic ketoacidosis is a pain that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I remember having to be picked up off the emergency room floor by nurses. I couldn't transfer beds by myself because I was so weak. I was throwing up so much and I was so dehydrated that when they called a rapid response on me, they couldn't find my veins in my arms. And I was stuck in the Sparrow ICU for 4 days. The second time that I went into diabetic ketoacidosis was in April of 2018. I had just moved back to Lansing for my first job, and I had spent every dollar I had to relocate. I had $20 left in my bank account, and I remember sitting in my car at the Walgreens in Okemos crying because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to eat or if I had to get my insulin. I spent my last $20 on my insulin, a partial prescription pickup because I couldn't afford the whole thing, and I didn't eat for 3 days until my next paycheck came through. I had very little support, and I had really nobody that I could ask to borrow money from. I also began searching online for, there are groups on Facebook and other internet forums where people who have an access of supplies, or if they are in need of supplies, will illegally trade medical supplies, either for just the cost of shipping or for a little extra money on the side. Because insulin is not the only cost when you have diabetes that is again, abhorrent. I finally have a good job with good coverage, so 1 month's worth of insulin doesn't cost this for me anymore. Without it, I wouldn't.
And just for the record, can you read those numbers because I'm not sure everyone can see them?
Yes, of course. So these are 2 prescription slips right next to one another after I went to go pick up my insulin, and this is how much my insurance saved me for 1 month's worth per number. 1 month, my insurance saved me $649.99. In a different month, it saved me $589.29 for 1 month's worth of insulin. Without proper coverage, I wouldn't have been able to get pregnant with my daughter because during my pregnancy, my insulin needs tripled. I went through a really heavy insulin resistance period that a lot of pregnant people do. Luckily, I'm happy to report she's 6 months old now and happy and healthy, but without my coverage, I would not have been able to have my daughter. But I am one of the lucky ones. I've been diabetic for 23 years. I've been a caregiver to children with type 1 diabetes. I've been a caregiver in an ICU with patients who have gone into diabetic ketoacidosis as well. And I have to really emphasize that this is not a unique problem to just me. There are diabetic people all over the country, all over Michigan, who are struggling to make ends meet, struggling to afford their medication, and they are dying over a drug that was sold, that its patent was sold for $1 by the scientist who discovered it, because they believe that insulin belonged to the world. So please, I do urge you to begin manufacturing here in Michigan and end the unnecessary suffering of so many who are like me in the name of corporate greed. Thank you so much.